Verina is one of the strongest, if not the strongest standard 5-star characters in the game. So, today I've prepared an updated guide on how to build and play Verina.
Bask in the sunlight.
Verina can heal in 3 different ways. The first is going to be her on the ground charge attack and mid-air basic attacks. When Verina has at least 1 stack of her forte circuit, she can use her ground charge attack or mid-air basic attacks to heal the entire team for 1188 plus 29.75% attack. Verina's mid-air basic attack string is 3 hits long, so if you want to use all the 4 stacks, you will have to use your ground charge attack. The second way is by using your liberation. When you use Verina's liberation, it'll do a neglectable amount of damage, but it'll heal the entire party for 950 plus 23.80% attack, whilst also marking all enemies hit for 12 seconds. When you deal damage to an enemy that has the mark applied to them, Verina will deal some neglectable damage again, which is counted as coordinated attack damage, whilst also healing the active character by 428 plus 10.71% of Verina's attack. This coordinated attack can trigger once per second on an enemy, with each enemy having an independent timer. And finally, the last way is by using Verina's outro skill. Verina's outro skill does 2 different things. The first will be healing, since Verina heals the incoming resonator by 19% of Verina's attack per second for 6 seconds. This healing can be granted to either your sub DPS or your main DPS, since the healing will continue even if the resonator is off the field. And the second effect will grant the entire team a 15% damage amp for 30 seconds. These are all the different ways to heal on Verina. So, let's check her forte circuit out and see how to actually gain her stacks. Verina can hold a total of 4 photosynthesis energy, which we can call flowers, since Verina gains a glowing flower for each stack that she holds. As for actually gaining these flowers, there are 3 different ways to get them. The first is by using her intro skill. This will generate 1 flower. The second is by using her resonance skill. Her resonance skill deals a bit of damage whilst generating 1 flower. Except if you have sequence 2, which will grant an additional flower for using your resonance skill. And the third is by using her basic attack 5, which will also generate 1 flower. Reaching basic attack 5 takes a while, but if you do a quick swap or a dodge counter, Verina will start with her basic attack 3, which speeds it up by a lot. As for using these flowers, I recommend using them at 3 stacks, since at that point you can simply jump into the air and basic attack 3 times. This way you can save a little bit more than half a second of rotation time, which is worth way more than 1 extra heal. As for Verina's inherent skills, the first will grant the entire team 20% attack for 20 seconds after Verina uses either her heavy attack, mid-air basic attacks, resonance, liberation or her auto skill. Sadly, this effect does not stack. And the second will keep a teammate alive if they would have taken fatal damage. When a teammate would have taken fatal damage, Verina instead grants them 1 HP and grants a shield worth of 120% of Verina's attack. This has a cooldown of 10 minutes. As for her leveling recommendations, I recommend leveling her forte circuit followed up by her resonance liberation. Verina's forte circuit increases her ground charge attacks and mid-air basic attacks damage, whilst also increasing the healing they do, whilst her liberation increases the instant heal, the coordinated attack damage and the coordinated attack healing. I don't recommend leveling her basic attacks, resonance skill and intro skill, since all of these pretty much bring nothing to the table. But don't forget to unlock all of her stat bonuses, so they can greatly increase the healing Verina does if you unlock them all. Verina only has a few weapons she can effectively use, so let's go over them. If your Verina is sequence 0, I recommend you to use the variation. Even though it has a low amount of base attack, the energy regeneration and passive are both great for Verina. The passive grants concerto energy when using your resonance skill. With the higher refinements, the more it grants. Some other great options if you don't have the variation are the Call of the Abyss, which grants a lot of energy regen as well as healing bonus when casting your liberation. Fusion Accretion, which grants a bit less energy regen, but it also grants 6 liberation energy as well as 10% attack after using your resonance skill. Rectifier 25, which is only viable because of the good amount of energy regen it grants, since the passive only grants 10% attack after using a resonance skill. And finally, the Jincho Keeper, which grants a lot of attack with even more after casting your intro skill. However, this weapon does lack the energy regen. Although if you have the variation, I do really recommend it, since you will need the Concerto energy regeneration for smooth rotations. If you have Verina at S2 however, I personally like to use the Cosmic Ripples. Since Sequence 2 grants 10 Concerto energy, you can invest a little bit more into healing instead of Concerto regen. Cosmic Ripples also has some energy regen in its passive, so that'll help Verina out a lot.
A change of perception.
Since Verina is a healing support, she only has one echo set she wants to use, and that is none other than the Rejuvenating Glow set. The 2-piece grants 10% healing bonus, whilst the 5-piece grants 15% attack to the entire team after healing anyone on the team. For the active echo, you'll want to use the Fallacy of No Return. The Fallacy grants 10% attack to the entire party for 20 seconds after using it, whilst also granting Verina 10% energy regen. The second one you could use is the Bellborn Echo. The 10% damage bonus for the entire team is nice, but it only lasts for 15 seconds. And besides this, Verina doesn't get any special bonuses, so I recommend using the Fallacy unless you're using a DPS that scales off of something other than attack. For the main stats, you want healing bonus on the 4 cost, energy regen on the 3 cost, and attack percent on the 1 cost. As for the substats, you want attack percent, energy regen, and flat attack. Since her liberation costs 175 energy, you want to stack as much energy regen on her as possible, preferably enough until you can use your liberation every rotation.
Stay behind me.
Now for the teams. There are endless possibilities. But in short, when using Verina as a healer, you can use any unit available. So, you want to pick any main DPS you have, and make sure that main DPS works well with a sub DPS you also have. So, for example, Gian and Mortevi, Dungeon and Mortevi, Dungeon and Rosha, Camellia and Rosha, Camellia and Sanwa, Brand and Sanwa, Brand and Changli, and many more. If you want to learn about team building, I have a video up explaining what to look for when deciding to make teams. Verina has a fairly easy rotation. You want to intro in, use your liberation, after which you want to use your echo skill into a resonance skill, after which you want to jump and basic attack 3 times. Then your concerto should be filled to outro into the next teammate. If you have sequence 2, you don't necessarily need to use your liberation to fill your concerto, since your intro into a skill into 3 mid-air basic attacks is already more than enough concerto. To get 3 flowers at sequence 0, you can swap to Verina right before you fill the previous character's concerto bar. This way, Verina can quickly get 1 flower by basic attacking 3 times, after which you swap back to the previous unit, do an attack to gain max concerto and intro into Verina. Since Verina is a standard banner character, everyone will eventually get her sequences, so I'm quickly going over them to see how good they are. Sequence 1 grants Verina more healing on her outro skill. It'll grant the incoming resonator healing equal to 20% of Verina's attack every 5 seconds for 30 seconds. This is pretty nice, granting the Rejuvenating Glow set a little bit more uptime. Sequence 2 grants Verina's resonance skill 1 more flower, whilst also granting 10 concerto energy. This is, in my opinion, one of the best sequences on Verina, making her way smoother to play. Sequence 3 increases the healing of her liberation mark by 12%. This is pretty decent, not too good, not too bad. Sequence 4 grants the entire team 15% spectro damage bonus for 24 seconds after using her heavy attack, mid-air attack, resonance liberation or auto skill. This effect does not stack. This is a great sequence for a Jinchi team or a mono spectro team, like Phoebe if you're using Spectro Rover as a sub DPS. Sequence 5 grants Verina 20% more healing to teammates that are under 50% HP. This is fine, but unless your name is Dungeon, you won't be under 50% HP. Unless your dodge button is broken, I guess. And finally, Sequence 6 increases Verina's heavy and mid-air basic attacks damage by 20%, whilst also granting them an additional effect. When they hit, they will trigger a coordinated attack once and heal all teammates. The damage and healing from these coordinated attacks are equal to her liberation. The sequence is pretty good, granting a bit more damage while also granting a lot more healing.
represent everything.
I think Verina is still a great unit after almost a year. Of course, Shorekeeper is a much better buffer now, but you still need at least 2 teams to clear endgame content. So, for now, Verina still has a very comfortable place in the meta. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this updated Verina guide, may I recommend a video on the screen right now. I appreciate you all. Bye bye.